Welcome back to the Age of Asparagus and our show where Bob Ross is helping us learn how to use Krita. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to mix a little bit of white and a little bit of algerian crimson to make a pinky color that we're going to use to highlight our clouds. There are many ways of mixing colors in Krita. And for the most part, what we're going to do is we're going to use something really cool called the digital color mixer. But first, I'm going to show you just a really quick way to mix two colors with the brushes we already have, the two brushes we've already created. So instead of messing things up here on our drawing so far, I'm going to create a new document, file new. I'm just going to use whatever defaults are here. And I'm going to go over and I'm going to pick algerian crimson, and I'm going to pick our cloud brush, and I'm just going to draw a section here. Now, we need a pinky color, so we're going to mix some of this red with the white below it. I'm going to use our smudge brush, and I'm just going to smudge it out. And you can try different pressures, and you can see what's going to happen here. And here I go. I've got a near white with a little bit. I'll pick something over here. To choose one of these colors along this gradient, I want to use the color picker. The shortcut for that is P. I can choose the color I want here. I'm going to select that, and you can tell my foreground color changed right there. You can also get the foreground color from your pop-up, and you'll see it'll show up as the big color here. That's the active foreground color. Okay, I don't need this anymore. I'm going to close that. I don't need to save that. We have this pinkish color as our foreground. I'm going to go back to our 1-inch cloud brush. Careful there. I need to make sure I'm on the right layer. This is digital painting, and we should take advantage of that. So I'm going to make sure I'm on my clouds layer, and I'm going to add just a little line of this pink here. And we're just going to outline the clouds here. Okay, now we're going to smudge that in. Right click, and we'll go to our smudge brush, and now we're going to bring that in, and you can see a lot of that pink's going to go away. It's also going to fix up some of our blue here, which in my example here I went a little too deep. The blue it's just too strong. So I'm going to speed up the video while I blend to prevent the video from getting too long, which will still give me about a minute to tell you a bit about the origin of Krita. About 20 years ago, the KDE movement started to create a new desktop environment for Unix-like operating systems. KDE standing for Common Desktop Environment, kind of. Programs for this environment have a habit of adding Ks to their name wherever possible, and the image editing program was originally called KImage and then later KImageShop. The name KImageShop was trademarked in Germany, so they tried changing it to Crayon with a K. Crayon was also trademarked, so a Swedish word meaning to draw or chalk was chosen. Krita was first officially released in 2004. In 2009, Krita quit trying to be a generic image manipulation program like GIMP or Photoshop and began focusing on digital painting. The Krita community now aims to make Krita the best painting application for cartoonists, illustrators, and concept artists. So I'm just going back up here with some of this more intense blue to blend it back in. So I'm pulling down from the pink highlights and pulling up from the shadows, short like strokes. Try to avoid anything too much here in your preview, your overview doc. I can see streaks showing up here, so try to eliminate those if you can. So this looks pretty good. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the intensity of all these colors. In the overview you can see these are really strong shadows and clouds. Bobby, when he first started, he mentioned that he's only taking a little tiny bit of phthalo blue, and we pretty much did the full color here. So how we can change that is if I click on the clouds layer, I can change the opacity of this layer with this slider here. Right now it's full opacity, and you'll notice the change live as I click here and I reduce to a lower value. Now this is going to look much better and less intense, so let's leave it at 70. Now I want to show you another method of mixing colors that we're going to be using for the rest of this course, and that is the digital colors mixer. In the settings menu, Dockers, find the digital colors mixer. Mine appears here. You might have to hunt around for it if you've played around with Dockers a bit. It may show up as a tab in one of these other sections. I want to grab my Digital Colors Mixer Docker, and I'm going to put it over top of the Overview Docker. So I'm moving it down until I get the white line around the Overview Docker, and now it's going to appear as a tab, and I can switch between the two. So this Digital Colors Mixer has 6 different colors in it, some bands, some selectors down here. I'm going to show you how to use this. First, on the left, we have the foreground color. So if I pick another color, such as Algerian Crimson, my foreground color here is going to change to Algerian Crimson, and any other color I choose. Let's go with Titanium White, because that's what we're going to start mixing with. And it also makes it really easy to see what's going on here. So we have white, and we can mix white with any of 6 different colors. And Krita chooses these default colors for us. Unfortunately, when you save your document, close Krita, when you reopen Krita, these default colors will be back again, and you'll have to reset them to use colors in our palette. Let's use these colors right now to explain. So here is black, and this band here shows how much I want to mix with black using this slider. And the resulting color shows here. So with this little arrow pointing in the middle at 50%, it is a 50% mix of white, our foreground color, and black. And the result is a halftone gray. If I move this up, I will have a greater percent of white and a lower percent of black. And you can see the resulting color here change as a result of that. And if I slide all the way down to the bottom, I now have 100% black and 0% white, and if I mix them, the result will be black. If I move this back up to about the 50% mark, to do the actual mixing, what I do is I tap the resulting color here. I'm going to tap it, and it will become our new foreground color. So if I tap it once, our new foreground color becomes this halftone gray, and I can use it on my painting. Because this halftone gray is now our new foreground color, we get a new mix. Now it is going to mix black again with the new foreground color, and we can again choose what proportion we want. If we have 100% foreground color, it will just be the same. There'll be no difference. If we want 0% foreground and 100% black, it will just be black. Or we can choose to mix them 50-50 and we'll get a darker gray. And if we click this again, you can see the iterative process here is I will get the darker gray. And if I continue mixing 50% black, eventually I'm just going to get all black. I went back to a white foreground color just to show that you can do the same thing for any of these 6 colors. These 6 colors work independently, so you can, if you're working with one of them, you can ignore the other ones. If you want to mix white with this blue here at 50%, you can click there and you'll get a 50% blue, 50% white. The neat thing about having multiple colors here is now you can start mixing all the colors together in the different proportions you want. And I'm going to show you an example of that in a moment as we mix our famous Bob Ross mountain mixture. Let's go back and set our foreground color to titanium white. And I'm saying titanium white kind of as a joke. White is just white for our digital purposes. We want to mix white with Algerian Crimson. To do that, I'm going to hit this little drop down arrow beside the black and hit the Add Remove Colors. And this is going to give us access to our palette. Here it says Bob Ross, and I have my palette of colors here. If you do not see this palette, you can use your drop down menu and you can find our Bob Ross palette that we created. Once I have the palette created, you can hit OK. Now if I actually hit Algerian Crimson here, I can't select it, so it's not going to add my color yet. But now if I go back to that drop arrow, I'll show my palette here, and I can choose Algerian Crimson. And there we go, Algerian Crimson shows up as this color. Eventually we're going to be mixing many more colors, and unfortunately we have to do this process for each one to pick the colors we want. For now, let's try this digital color mixing method of getting that pink we wanted. So Bob Ross started with white, and then he mixed in just a tiny bit of alizarin crimson into it to give it a pinkish hue. And I'm looking right here because that's going to be the resulting color. And you can use this if you know that you're mixing two colors 50-50. You can just eyeball. There's 50, there's 75%, 25%. Or you can eyeball it by looking at the color. And I'm going to do something here where it's about 75% white and 25% red. And I'm going to hit that. And now I have my pink mixture. And with my cloud brush, I could go back in and add some highlights. Now then, let's get crazy. We're going to make our mountain mixture. Bobby uses a base of midnight black, which again is kind of just a joke. Digitally, midnight black is just black. Alright, with our base of midnight black, we're going to mix in about 50% Prussian blue. An easy way to think of this is the color we're adding in, Prussian blue, and if we bring it up here, we're adding 0% Prussian blue, 50%, 100%. 0, 25, 50, 75, 100. And of course, the more Prussian blue we add, once we get to 100, it becomes that exact same color. So we're going to add 50% Prussian blue, and then to that mixture, we are going to add a little bit of Van Dyke brown, and I'm going to put this up to about the 25% mark here. And then finally we're going to add a touch of alizarin crimson, and I'm going to put that up even higher, something here around 10-20%. Now the colors you see here mixing with Van Dyke brown is actually it mixing with black. Each of these are mixing with our foreground color. But what we're going to do is we're going to start with the blue mix. So I'm going to hit here, and we're going to mix midnight black with Prussian blue, 50%. And now I have this dark blue. Now I'm going to mix this new foreground color with about 25%, or maybe even a little less, 25% Van Dyke brown. So I click that, and my color goes a little bit purpler, a little bit darker. And finally, I'm going to mix this, again, new foreground color with a tiny bit of alizarin crimson, just to give it a little more of a purple tinge. And I clicked there, giving me my final mountain mixture. And I can take a look at this here. It's showing up as gray because I'm drawing on my clouds layer, and my clouds layer has an opacity of 70%. So it's not showing up at its full intensity. So just temporarily, I'm going to click on my lake layer so we can see what it looks like. It's almost black, but it's got a really dark purpley tint to it. That's what we want. In fact, this is a very common color for Bob Ross, so much so that he actually sells the color mountain mixture. So we're going to add this to our palette. I'm going to have to make my palette a little bigger so I can fit in one more color. And I'm going to hit the plus button. Remember, adds our foreground color. So there we go. We have our mountain mixture. And it's really close to black, but side by side, you should be able to tell that it's not black. So I guess that means we're ready to draw a mountain. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you back for the next part in our series.